Coming up on The Returned.
My body started to shake. I was just out and I felt like I was just flowing in these stars. I remember looking down at my body, seeing it lying down under the tree. And the guy that came to me, the voice that I heard was the voice of Jesus. And he explained to me, you must go back. You are not finished yet. I decided to come back, and I remember the feeling of coming back to an ice cold body. I was sitting there for a moment, just like trying to process what just happened.
Hi, and welcome to The Returned. The truth always follows you back. Hi, and welcome to The Returned, a place where we share near-death stories, out-of-body experiences, spiritual awakenings, signs from spirit, and the journeys of healers and lightworkers from around the world. Today, I am joined by Alexandrea Aurora. She is a spiritual therapist specializing in Akashic Records mediumship, Dio Yin practices, author, and a near-death experiencer. Alexandria's life didn't begin in ease. Her early years were shaped by childhood trauma, chronic pain, and deep spiritual encounters. Alexandria, welcome to The Returned.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're so very welcome. Before we talk about the near-death experience itself, I'd love to start maybe with grounding ourselves in you and maybe what your life was like prior, maybe who you were before the awakening, and also did spirituality or religion play a role in your upbringing at all?
Well, it didn't play any role at all, which is why it was such a big transition. But so really shortly, I had a really intense upbringing, especially the first years, with an alcoholic father and a good mother who neglected a lot and didn't have much energy to take care of her children. She has the disorder borderline. So I grew up in a really unsafe environment, and very young, I learned to be very kind of extrovert and be like, love me. So when I went out of the house, I would find friends and people that would like look how beautiful I was. So that was kind of my strategy. I would always like stay at friends' house and like be with them, and like at home I would just kind of avoid as much as I could. Very early on, I learned like to take care of myself. So it was very, very intense childhood. And at the age of 13, I was molested by my own father because he was really drunk. So that was a very, very intense experience that I had suppressed and that came out later in my life. But that kind of, we always knew something had happened, but it was, we don't talk about it. So when I was young, at the age of 13, I started to have chronic pain, and it was after that experience. I started to have lots of like hunking back and like really pain in my upper back. And so the doctors, they didn't say to get like a surgery or something like that, luckily. Instead, they recommended me to find a sport that I would enjoy, something about using the muscles, which is good advice. So, but then I fell in love with this sport called kayaking, where you are like on the river and you're like going forward. And that became my thing. That became the place where I found my peace, where like I would just train like a naughty person, like, I don't know, like morning, midday, evenings, 3 times a day if I could, I'd just go on the water. And I'm from a place, a really, really small town where there's not much to do. So that was like what I did. Would go to school and then go to kayaking. Some days I would even sleep there or sleep with a friend, like stay at their house and then go back. So my trainer became like a second father somehow, like a friend. And he was like bringing me up. I was like winning many, many medals, like gold medals, world championships, Danish championships. I was really good at it. So that gave me, how can I say, that love that I never got. Then it became replaced by performance very fast. I was never very good at school. Like I was okay, but sitting still would confront a lot of uncomfort and discomfort in my body. So I would just kind of move, but I had this pain still. Like maybe the training lowered it a little bit, but it was always there. And then when I was 17, I got a boyfriend, which, happens. And this is where my spiritual awakening really took on. Like there had been some situations in the past. Like the first time was when I was about 15 and my grandmother passed away. So before she passed away, I was woken up by 3 angels. And at the time, I didn't know what it meant. They gave me some things in my hands. And then they told me, like, your grandmother is passing. And I remember it because then when she passed a few days later, I wasn't sad or surprised, or I think I felt safe and protected. And I remember telling my family about it. And they said something about it's normal when you're young to fantasize. So they kind of just told me not to worry too much about it. And I was like, I just remember going for all these walks and really thinking about this really happened. Going through my first funeral and being super calm about it because I just knew she's with Jesus and the angels and she's super fine. And I couldn't really talk to anyone about it. She wasn't buried even in a church because no one in my family is really religious, really. So I just kind of held that. And then fast forward 2 years later, I found my first boyfriend. We started to have lots of great dates and I met his family. We would always like hang out, all of us together. And then one night, after our first fight, I was woken up not by angels, but by him. And it was like in a dream. And in this dream, he was standing on top of a hill. He was looking over the sea and then he fell down. And I rushed there to catch him. And I remember like holding him and then he just fell down. And I woke up screaming, no, no. And I was like sweating. And then the day after, his mother called me and she told me that he had fallen down on a small island in Greece. And they didn't know more than this, but they knew he didn't survive. And that for me, I remember just running to the grass and like screaming for a long time. Like it was so traumatic for me to have that person that you love and you're in a fight and you're like a teenager. So fights, they feel really deep inside. You feel so much like connected with the, like I have to get him back and why is he mad? And the fight was maybe not so big. And he was traveling at the time, so he was not answering. So there was all this teenage drama inside me, all these hormones, and then this happened. And I remember like having to go to the funeral and telling all of our friends. And at that time, I didn't feel protected. I felt just shocked. But then later in life, I found out this was my sign that there's something in me waking up. But I didn't understand at the time. I was 17 and I was living my life. But then shortly after this, I had an injury on my left hand. I fell and broke it. And so my career in kayaking was like totally out. And then after that, and then on top of that, he had passed. So I went on a really bad spiral after that. I started to hang out with the wrong people, drinking a little bit too much beer and trying marijuana for the first time and kind of all the things I hadn't been doing right. And I was dealing with it in my own way. 2 years later, I was having so much pain. I was 21 years old. And so I had 2 grandmothers, right? One from each side. And the other grandmother, still alive, she could walk faster than me. And so she told me, you need to get some help. You cannot just like live in this way. So at the time I was studying to become a therapist, so I knew a lot about the body. I had changed my diet and those things, and I was always very interested in the body and movement and all. But I didn't still understand why I had all this pain. So my grandmother then told me, you should try going to that yoga thing. And that became a beginning for me. I tried that, right? I tried the yoga class, and it was just amazing. Like, I felt better for the first time. Because now, now I know it helped my nervous system. But at the time, I just knew it helped me. And so I used yoga, and I still was like going to the training, studying to be a therapist, and like really healing my body was like the first step for me. And then one day after a yoga class, my father came as like a son towards me. And like he flew in, like, I don't know, I was awake, but I was like seeing him. And he told me like, I'm gonna leave soon. And I felt like I have to listen because I had those dreams. I had that with my grandmother. So I called my father, and yes, he had made the decision to end his life and start drinking so much that he would die from it. And I think it was maybe 6 months after that, we had the call from the hospital saying, like, it's time to come and take care of your father. And then I took care of him for 2 weeks, took 2 weeks off my studies at therapy, and just took care of him every day, spending time with him. And we had a lot of good times. It's some of the best memories I have with him, actually, because he wasn't drunk. He was relaxed and happy and joyful. And I felt like, that there was so much love at that time. And then again in a yoga class came to me, and I just knew I have to go. And then, I went and I called the hospital, and they were like, yeah, it's now. And I was there holding his hand for the last moments. Like, the last things he really told me was to do my Buddhist practice and find my Buddhist root, which I have done later in life. But at the time I was 21, so it wasn't really a priority. Like, I just wanted to let him go, give him a good funeral, and we gave him his version of Buddhist idea of a funeral. And I became a therapist. I started working, but I still had all this pain. And so, long story short, I went on a lot of teacher trainings in Singapore, where I found a very special kind of yin yoga, which I teach today, that really started healing me. And then I found a special healing course when I was 25. It was called Explain Pain Therapy. And it was like about the true origin of pain, which, was trauma, one of them, but also stress. And after learning about all these deep, real reasons why we have pain, I started to have less pain because my brain started to understand the body is not sick. It doesn't come from the body. It comes from the nervous system, comes from the ideas and fears. And when I started to change, then my life changed. And I was 25. The pain was gone. My dad was gone. Like, I had no one. Like, I was just me. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. And I was like, I think I'm going to go all in. So I left my full-time job, the place where I was staying in the city, and I went to live in the countryside and start my own yoga. Like, this yoga that had healed me. And then I combined it with pain science. So I did like these very special classes where I would help people. And that was how my spiritual awakening, like when I did that decision, then it started to go faster.
Wow. What an upbringing you have had.
Yeah.
A lot of spiritual connection there. I too have that death premonition. So that's something you and I have in common, which is really interesting to meet someone who has that as well. You described in your early life that you basically lived survival. Like it was basically survival-based trauma, chronic pain, and navigating darkness. Then came your NDE, your near-death experience,
Yeah,
and an encounter with a light that shifted everything, correct?
that is correct.
Oh, yes. Can you walk us through what happened that day?
Yeah. So I had moved to the countryside and I was being successful with having lots of students in my yoga classes. And then that day I had an affair, like I had a short summer relationship with a beautiful man that I had fallen totally in love with. But I was so busy having so much success with the yoga that he felt I neglected him. And he somehow, not intentionally, triggered all this survival that I was not really understanding yet how much I had actually survived. Because when you're surviving, you're just in it. But he understood it and somehow he had triggered that. And then, we've had many fights and I was always afraid that he would leave me. And then one day he did that. He had to go back to Germany and he left. And then I was there alone in that apartment. And the only thing I had was yoga class. And somehow I felt a pull in my heart. It was like if someone was going 100,000 miles an hour, pulling my heart out of my chest. And I just was not able to stop it. I was just crying and crying and crying, screaming. And I felt like I was dying. And I felt like for a long time, I was like, what is this? Until the moment I realized, I'm reliving the same like when my boyfriend died. So my body was back in that trauma. Again, I didn't have that deep knowledge about trauma like I have today, but that's definitely the feeling.
Mhm.
And then I somehow just said to myself, okay, I'm going to go back to the only place where I remember to feel safe. And this place was not so far from the apartment where I was living. So I took my bike and I biked like 7 miles into the forest. I had a little bit of water. And then I just decided I'm going to sit here and look at the lake and I'm just going to leave. Somehow I'm just going to leave my body and never come back. I don't know how, but I'm ready to die. This is too much. And I didn't know if I would literally have to do an action to die or if I could just leave. I wasn't sure. I just knew this is the place I die. That was really the feeling. And I was crying all the way on the bicycle. I don't know if I had eaten anything. I have no idea. And I just went there and I sat under that tree and I started to pray. And I prayed to, again, I didn't know any names. I prayed to my helpers. I prayed to God. I prayed to the universe to support me in this process of leaving my body because I was done with this lifetime. I felt like I have helped some people. That must be enough. I can't feel this pain. And then I sat down in something that I had learned in Singapore, which is called Tukdam. It's like the position you sit in for meditation when you want to ascend, meaning when you want to leave the body.
Mhm.
And, I was doing this without any guides or just did it, sat down. And then I remember my body started to shake a lot. I started to feel like I was throwing up. And that's the last thing I remember. Don't remember anything else. Then the next thing is kind of like a golden light. It looks like stars. And I was just out. And I felt like I was just flowing in these stars, like golden stars. And I was so comfortable. And I remember looking down at my body, seeing it lying down. So not seated up, but lying down under the tree. And then the guide that came to me, the voice that I heard was the voice of Jesus. And he explained to me, you must go back to the body. Like you are not finished yet. We need you to finish the mission. And I remember being angry with this voice and being like, no. and then I don't know. This has been going on for a long time because I know I was out of it for a long time. And at one point, I decided to come back, and I remember the feeling of coming back to an ice cold body, feeling nausea and totally like, I don't know, like if you come out of narcosis or something, like totally out. And then I was sitting there for a moment, just like trying to process what just happened. I didn't want to die when I came back. And the whole body was calm, but ice cold. And I was like, what happened? And I remember I called a friend and I said to him, I don't think it's safe for me to live alone. I cannot do this alone. I need support. And then after that, I moved into like a kind of like a spiritual community where I had support around me. But from that day, I was never the same. Like the past survival stuff could come up if I'm triggered and stuff, but it was like, okay, now it's all in. Like there's no other path. Like there's one path.
Mm-hmm.
And that is teaching this that I'm here to teach. And that is the yoga that I'm teaching today. And the practices that I'm teaching. And then I can say something interesting was that a few days after I shared on social media the process, and one of my friends, she reached out to me and she said, I think that you need this guy. And she sent me a YouTube with the guy that became my teacher for many years. His name is Matt Kahn. And the moment I heard a YouTube with him, I just knew this is my energy. Like this is what I need. And I just immediately jumped into everything he had. And then I became an Akashic Records healer, Akashic Records medium. I learned everything about Akashic Records. And I found out, that's where I went without knowing, you know, it was just so interesting that somehow something in me knew. And then it came into we can call it the 3D, whatever you want to call it, this material after. Yeah.
That's interesting. So your body left
Yeah.
from a pose
Yeah.
and a prayer, basically. And then you must be very strong. You must have a lot of power. And so when you went and you were in that light, did you see anything around you, or was it just the voice and the light?
Well, I did see what I would describe as a hallway, like kind of a pull. Like if I should describe, it's kind of like a hallway, like if you're being pulled to something, and then a huge white space, and then this kind of starlight, and then Jesus, but in a light form that spoke to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you
I think
just knew that that's who it was.
today I knew. At the time, I'm not sure that I knew. Because it's not me who I am now. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but something in me knew this is the being that is protecting me. That's what I knew. And today I know that I have such a strong connection with his energy. It's gets me through everything. And that he's always there when, especially in the darkest moments, kind of always him that comes to me. There is one other being that is always with me, and that I think not at that time I didn't feel her presence, but I work a lot with a goddess. Her name is Kuan Yin. She is also always with, like,
So when you came back, Alexandria, did you have did your powers, or you sorry, I shouldn't say powers, your gifts, did they come, or did they just get stronger?
They kind of exploded,
Okay.
and I couldn't really control it. Like,
Wow.
even if I just did a little bit of yoga, like my kundalini would just rise up and I would see all the beings. And sometimes I would be able to see all the angels and all the beings and the light council and all kind of things. And I wouldn't be able to kind of get out of it. it was so powerful. Sometimes I would like have to call my friends, or they would come to my room and they would like kind of help me to ground because my Kundalini was just opened. And then I had like all these encounters with light beings, and sometimes also other beings that I didn't want to have encounters with, and like lower frequencies. And it took me a long time to kind of figure out what was happening to me. And one day I had a friend, he had been in China, and he had studied with a master there. And he told me, I think you should go meet a real master, like a current living master that can actually help you, because you open all the doors. And like, you know, for sure, when I was teaching yoga, people, they were describing that when I touched them, they saw purple light and they were healed and all the pain was gone. And I didn't know I was doing it. Like, it's cool, but I didn't know I was doing it, right? So I would, like, I remember one time a woman, she came to my class and she was like almost handicapped when she came in, and she walked out and she was fine. And
Oh
I
my
have
goodness.
no idea. I have no idea what I did, but she could explain how angels came and saved her and pulled energy out of her, and then she was fine. So I had all these really, really big things happening, but also I didn't feel that I was able to hold people safely because I didn't know it was actually happening. So how could I
Okay.
protect them? And I really wanted to make sure everyone was safe, including myself. And I would, after teaching, I would be super overwhelmed, right? Like I would be so overwhelmed from all this energy. So my friend, he was like, I think you should go meet a real master. And I listened to him and I did. So I went to China to meet my current master and live in a Taoist temple and study something called Qigong, where you move really slowly and you like stand and follow your breath and not much happens. And I studied Tai Chi and Qigong in China. And the first thing my master told me when he met me, he told me, very big destiny. And I was super overwhelmed about that. But then a few days after, he told me, you opened too many doors all at once. Now you need to close the doors. Then you need to choose when to open and close the doors, like to other realms. Yeah. And I was like, yes, please, please teach me. And the first step to learning that was just learning how to be in the body and to really, how can I say, take my power back within my body and really heal the body's experience of this lifetime. And that started with doing a lot of Qigong every day. And I tell you, I thought it was so boring. I was used to seeing all of that and feeling all this and so many things. And then you come to the temple, there is like no internet. Everything's cold. There's like, you have to cook all your food. You have to go to the toilet outside in a hole. And then the practice is just looking out the mountain, doing nothing. So I was like, fuck. Oh, sorry. How do I manage this? And like the first month, I remember I was just suffering and I thought it was so boring, but I did it anyway. Like I was like, okay, this is a master, so he must know what he's doing to me. So I really just did everything he told me to do. And then after a month, I started to feel in all this energy inside my own frequency, like inside my body. And for the first time in a very long time, probably since, actually, when we're talking now, think about probably since that near-death experience, for the first time, my body started to be hot. Like since that, I was always cold on my fingers, always cold on my toes, my nose. And the more Qigong I did, the more I started to just burn and feel so super grounded in myself. And then I started to be able later to control these things. So the next thing that happened is that I was told by my master that my destiny was sharing these practices with the Westerners. And the first step to that would be finding my Buddhist roots. And naive as I was, I thought those Buddhist roots, they must exist in Nepal, not inside me. But so I traveled to Nepal. Long story short, I went to live in a Buddhist monastery and I was staying there, going to different sites. And then COVID hit us. And so I was stuck in isolation during COVID for 160 days. Full isolation. I couldn't leave my room. And in the beginning, I was like, oh, meditation. Like I just do like in China, but it was that feeling that you never know when can you go out. That gave me so much trauma that I had to see all my patterns like in reverse, go back and understand what I had been running from my whole life. And I faced what I call face the dragon, literally a dragon, huge dragon, like, or demon or whatever you want to call it. For me, it was a dragon. And then I transformed it into my best friend. And I kind of found a way to find my way out of the darkness. But my nervous system was hit with, and I was diagnosed later when I came home with PTSD from this event because it was too much to handle in such a short time. So many things I never had looked at deeply just popped up. And that was my Saturn return. That was exactly where Saturn returned in my chart. And when I was there, I had to accept those things have happened to my body. And that is why I had pain. And then I started to have, like while I was there, I started to have a lot of pain in my womb. While I was seeing all of these memories, I felt the pain in my womb and my menstruation stopped to function and all the pain came again back. And then when I came home, after a lot of fighting with the system, I was diagnosed with endometriosis, which is the body inside is kind of like starting to inflame. Really, it's inflammation, it's anger. And then I started to process a lot of anger. And even though a part of me would like to just be like, oh, I forgive my father and everything's fine and love and light, I had to accept there's also another part of the feminine, which is I need to allow myself to feel hate and all this anger and like just like that had been repressed and just get it out of my system. And so I went on a whole different journey after that and really learned to allow myself to feel whatever I had to feel about that whole thing. Today, it's 4 years ago since I came home from Nepal and I don't have PTSD anymore. And I also don't have endometriosis anymore. I had one surgery and now I'm working on the more holistic modalities and the symptoms are totally low. So I know, like I really know the pain and the endometriosis and all of that, it's trauma. It's my own body that was telling me, you are not safe here. Like, and something happened, but not like anyone would sit down with me and say like, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
I was in therapy. Just, I didn't tell you that, but I was in therapy for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years due to my parents. But
Yeah.
it doesn't go that deep in that way. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so sad when that trauma happens. And that's something that's another thing I've been seeing lately a lot of is that trauma seems to be manifesting in our bodies. Like it manifests all sorts of pain, disease or disease, in our body. That's something I have really been aware of or made aware of lately. Something here I wrote down was movement for you. So moving your body was something that you automatically knew to go to. So like without you really even knowing, you just went to it. So you started kayaking. When you couldn't kayak, you went and did this. And when you couldn't do that. So something about you and your soul to me knew that this was what was going to get you out of it.
Yeah. Even
A lot
today.
of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Today I do daily gym. So like
Mhm.
weightlifting. Now I'm more into that and the Qigong for sure. Yeah.
And moving your body, right? So some that I notice are some people It's water.
Mhm.
So there's been a lot of people that have been immersed in water, and all these things are happening around water, but yours happens around movement and meditation. And this really, wow, I keep seeing something right there. But this really keeps keeps you open. This really keeps you open.
Yeah. If I don't,
Unbelievable.
if I don't do it, everything kind of
Yeah.
stagnates. Yeah. Yeah.
That's on purpose, isn't it?
It's the mission.
Yeah.
So today, I'm proud to be able to say I have my own teacher trainings. I have healed so many people, not by me healing them, but by me helping them to understand what they have to do of movement to heal the imbalances in their own bodies, and from like helping them to reprogram the subconscious mind around whatever trauma that has manifested in the physical body, which is spiritual therapy, but really it's all led me to that point, right?
Right.
No.
So interesting. So do you think that that all came from your NDE then?
I do believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Alexandria, where do you think we go when we die?
So I do believe that I had a deep conversation about this with my master. And I actually think it's very interesting, the answer that he gave, and then I will give
Sure.
my own. But what
Sure.
he said, that depends on the soul. And I think that was such a deep truth that it would
Mm-hmm.
depend on, is this like soul going to the Buddha heaven? Is this soul going to, we can say, the angelic heaven? Is this soul going? So in his terms, he would mean that everyone, they will ascend to the place where they are supposed to be until they reincarnate. And I do believe
Okay.
that a death is a sleep. So it's like a
Yeah.
resting time. And I believe we go to that heaven wherever our soul is linked, and we rest, we sleep until the next turn. Then I believe that we as souls, when we practice specific practices like Taoism, we have the opportunity to become an ascended master and to actually ascend into a realm where people can pray to us and we can devote our entire being to compassion for humanity. So I also believe that when we would need to practice a lot to be able to ascend. And then we never die and we never come back. We become an ascended master. That is something that, I understood from my channel. Yeah.
And what about being visited by loved ones from the other side? What do you think that is? Having said what you did about the eternal sleep, right? So how do you think we're visited, or do you think we're visited?
Oh yeah, I think like in that sleep, they are how I see them, like reading the newspaper and like doing things that
Oh.
they enjoy. And I believe that they are there in that, can we say, frequency, and that when they come to visit us, it's because at that point we need like a guidance, or we need their
Mm.
compassion, but then they go back again to their rest. But yeah, I had so many visits, and I have also done so much mediumship for people that I can say 100% that I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm disturbing them. Like, hello, can you come, please? We need a message from you. And other times they're already present. They're already there. And it doesn't mean they're here. They're just like kind of borrowing the frequency so that
Oh.
we can, how can I say, we can get an interaction that we need. When they are there, they are like their highest state only. So
Right.
for me, the deepest forgiveness of myself, which is what I needed with the boyfriend, came after he passed. The deepest forgiveness for my father came after he passed. Then they were in the highest state. It was much more easier for me to go through the forgiveness process with them.
Okay, so Akashic Records mediumship. Um, for those who may not understand Akashic Records mediumship, how would you explain what it is and how it can help people?
Yeah, so the Akashic Records is the part of heaven closest to us. So it's available through our crown chakra, which is just above our head. And that means the Akashic Records is available for all humans. Once activated, the Akashic Records can actually come inside the body and be activated in other chakras as well, meaning you can access it through meditation without going high. And it means the records of your soul. And like in all traditions, you will see that there is some mystical place or space where they go to talk to the higher beings. Akashic records have been in different religions, so it's not religion based. You can find it's not called Akashic records, but then it's called Akasha, or it's called the archives, or it's called um, um, like peak points. It's called different things in Buddhism, Taoism, uh, how can I say, Christianity. Different religions have different words for it, even Judaism, like, but it's not religious. In the beginning, I thought it was some religious thing, but it's really more of a spiritual thing. And it's really
Okay.
cross lineages. So you can go there and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I have a connection with some like Buddhist thing I never knew. Or all of a sudden, like, oh, I have to do Tai Chi, or oh, I have a connection with Jesus and I never knew. And in there, the more time you spend in there, the more your nervous system starts to go on a higher frequency, which actually calms everything down. So you learn to
Mm.
be in a state where your cells are moving fast, but you feel calm at the same time. And you can go there to get like especially messages, like anything you would like to know about like past life, future life, timelines. But in order to get the messages, you need to, your nervous system need to be
Hmm.
able to hold the frequency.
Hmm.
And most of all, what I see and how I use it is to heal the trauma actually from within the Akashic records. And to use the guides, the angels, the ascended masters to heal us. It's like when you go there, it's like they're just ready. They're like, let's heal. They just make it all ready for you. Yeah. So it's not something away from us. It's actually here.
Mm-hmm. Is that the same as, say, the afterlife, the other side? Would that just be right here in like maybe a higher frequency, or maybe it's inside of us? Would you be able to speak on that?
I think if you look at it from that way, yeah, I think it is. It's how my master would say is a door you open or is a door you close. And when you
Okay.
know, so with Akashic records, what I like is you use prayers, and that's how you open and close the door, so you know what you're getting in and what you're not getting in.
Okay.
I'm not an expert in the afterlife. I use the Akashic records to contact the people that have passed, the souls, because the soul was called a name, and through the name I can connect with the energy. Others, they use other tools to connect, but they always use the name. The name has the
Hmm.
frequency. So I would say that it is here. We call it
Okay.
here. Yeah.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. And now, because we went that route, I would love to talk about what you feel about dreaming and having messengers come in your dreams, or seeing loved ones in dreams, or having things happen in dreams
Hmm.
and them come true. What do you think about that?
I use that as a navigation for my life on a daily basis. I think it's the most beautiful thing. It's one of the things I'm most grateful for since I came back. That now I have this whole new way of navigating life, and I always dream like from the dream state, it always comes through in the most amazing
Yeah.
ways that I could have never imagined myself. It's the most beautiful thing. I absolutely love it. I don't try to control it. Like I don't do any like lucid
Mm-hmm.
dreaming trainings or anything like this because I'm so sensitive that I can easily distress my nervous system. So I just kind of allow it. But I do like to like say, let's say I have a situation at hand where I'm like, I would love some guidance. So then I would do some prayers before falling asleep. Maybe listen to an Akashic Records meditation, and then let it come in the dream state. I
Oh,
absolutely love it. I think
yeah.
the ego cannot interfere, so it just comes into the heart. I think that's why I
Oh,
like it. Yeah.
yeah. I like it too. I get a lot of messages through my dreams as well. Now, because you've had a near-death experience, I am wondering if you fear death at all.
Not really. No. I think what I fear is pain, to be honest. That's my bigger
Mm.
fear, suffering.
Yeah, I think
I
that's everybody's, right?
but but for me, I think the moment that I go, like when I think about it, I feel love. So
Mm.
that's not something I'm afraid of. But I would say that like fearing getting elderly and fearing like what will happen to the body and this like those things are more what gives fear, I would say. The death
Right.
itself, no. I don't think it's
Yeah.
something we should fear. I think it's is a beautiful part of life, but for sure it's sad when it happens early. Like
Mm-hmm.
I do think, yeah, I really think it's I have this one thing I want to say that
Sure.
I've never said it. It's this one thing that we learned from Matt Kahn, and then I just intuitively just really just felt the truth in it. And it's that there is a moment that is decided that we leave. And that
Mhm.
moment has a ripple effect to everyone in our family. So
Mhm.
the soul knows that if I leave at this time, the pain that it will cause on my family members, on my loved ones, is exactly the pain that would lead them on this huge mission that they are supposed to do. And if I don't
Mm.
go now, that mission will not happen. So it's like a soul contract, or it's like destiny, or what you want to say, call it. But I like that deeper explanation of the soul knows.
Yes, I
I,
agree.
that gave me so much peace. I remember when I heard that, I was like, ah, makes sense, because I would have never gone on all of these journeys without those events happening.
Right? Isn't
Right.
spirit amazing?
It's so amazing.
Mhm. So, if you had a loved one that was actually getting ready to transition to the other side, or knew someone who had a loved one getting ready to transition, what would your words be to them? Would it be similar to what you just said?
Yes, I do. I do explain that, and then I actually have a friend right now, so I'm trying to
Mm.
think about her, what I told her, and it's like to get the best out of the last moments, to spend time with the person, and then I normally ask if it would be okay that I teach her a little bit about the angels and maybe some prayers, to ask for guidance and like to feel the connection. And that is like a beautiful opportunity to feel this spiritual support that is there for us, and that there, so she doesn't feel alone. And
Right.
that's normally how I explain it. It would depend, is it someone who's really old, and like it would depend on the situation, but it's always
Mhm.
hard. It's always,
Mhm.
the human is always going through this grief.
That's right. That's right. And now we're at the point where I would like to ask you, for those who feel spiritually curious, can
Mhm.
you share your services, offerings, or published works and where they can find you?
Yeah, so pop onto my website on idealtoheal.dk. It's like, I like this word, ideal to heal. You can
Yeah.
also pop in on Instagram. I love connecting with you on Instagram. And on my website, there's like a free healing, and I would actually start with that. It's like an
Okay.
Akashic Records journey. It's super grounding and calming. And then after that, when you've tried my energy and if you like it, I normally recommend to just get like a 10-minute reading, and it's super low priced so that you start to get some messages from your guides. And then from there, I normally guide you into or Qigong or Tai Chi or grounding exercises, or it can even be like that you just needed that little 10-minute. That's normally what I recommend because I have so many tools, but what I enjoy is connecting with people and giving them the right tools from the beginning. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. And do you do or have a YouTube? And do you do any type of the yoga on the YouTube?
Yes. So actually, oh yeah, that's a great question. I have my own app. I always forget to say
Oh,
I have
there
my
you
own
go.
app. I will share the link for the app. It's right now under
Please.
updates,
Mhm.
but yeah, I will share the link. On the app, there are lots of free Qigong classes and yoga classes. You just have to make like a free membership on the app, and then you can try. There's like a 3-day, no, a 10-day trial it is, where you can do a little bit of Qigong and yoga every day just to try out how it feels to really come into the body.
Oh,
Yeah.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm so happy I asked that. Thank you very much. That sounds so fun. And so well, basically, all that information will be in the description box below, and you'll send me the link to the app so I can add that.
Yeah, I will add that.
Perfect.
And that's, I
Perfect.
think you will really enjoy it. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds excellent. So the returned wouldn't be the returned without a signature question. So on this show, I always ask, everyone who returns always comes back with a truth.
Mm.
What truth did you return with that you believe humanity most needs to hear right now?
So the overall thing that I always say is love always wins. That's my sentence. No matter where you are in the darkness, no matter how much suffering, if you allow love in and you love yourself, you win. That's that's the thing. And my mission is helping all of humanity to accept and understand that the Akashic Records is available for each and every person here. Everyone carries the light. It doesn't matter how it looks from the outside. Inside, there's always the light. Everyone has a heart chakra in there, and everyone has the access. So that's the way. If you can't allow that light in, if you can't understand Akashic Records and all of that, you can just say, thank you, universe, for helping me to allow that love in. Thank you, universe, for helping me to love myself.
Hmm.
And just saying it enough times, over time, the love will come to you. I love talking about prayers and Akashic Records. And
Yeah.
this is like what I learned from that experience is we all have that access point. All of us.
That is beautiful. You know, Alexandria, I cannot thank you enough for coming here today. I know we had some technical issues, but I am so, so thankful that you joined us today. Not only that you joined us, but that you shared your story so honestly and not just about the light, but what it takes to integrate it into your life. You returned with such awareness, strength, and purpose. And I want to thank you for bringing that purpose and your light to the return today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my great pleasure and honor. Thank
Thank you. And to everyone watching or listening, near death experiences don't just change people spiritually, they often change how someone lives in their body, how they relate to pain, and how they understand purpose. Let this be a gentle reminder that your body is not your prison. Your sensitivity is not your weakness. And your darkness may be the doorway that returns you to your own light. Until next time, Stay open, stay curious, and keep returning to the truth within you.